division. You had Devin the Dream Haney taking on Jorge Linares, as Devin Haney was defending his version of the WBC championship, which is a whole mess. I don't understand how, what's what, Teofimo is the franchise champion. Devin Haney was the interim champion, raised to regular champion. There's all this WBC. They got the prettiest belt, but they're the flimsiest of them all. Everybody, I love that green belt. It's super cool looking. It's the coolest looking of the belts, no doubt. Maybe Ring Magazine's cooler. So maybe that's why they feel like they can give out the most. I don't know, but they're like, they'll be in, every event. Oh, this is the Heritage belt. This is the Mayweather versus McGregor. This is the money belt. I thought Chael Sonnen had a great line with the money belt one time where he goes, they claimed it was worth $3 million. I saw it just laying on a desk somewhere. Which is true. I remember seeing that too. It was just laid, sprawled out one time in the middle of the lobby. They claimed it was $3 million made of diamonds and snakeskin. Nobody would have anything that expensive just laying around. It was a brilliant line by Chael. But either way, Devin Haney is very, very good, and he is an outstanding young champion because he does have that distinction. I'm not taking that away from him. I don't recognize him as the number one lightweight champion of the world. I do give that distinction to Teofimo. But either way, he is a champion. He is a champion, and he was defending his belt last night against Jorge Linares. And to sum up this fight, I really just want to focus on the positive from Devin Haney, because I think a lot of people are going to go and focus on the last two rounds of this fight. And I think that if you do that, you're really missing out on what I thought was just overall just a brilliant performance from the young fighter. I think we forget sometimes these guys get on the stage and you got to remember that, he's 22 years old. Teofimo is 23 years old. Ryan Garcia is 21 years old. A lot of these guys are super, super young, and they've put together a hell of a resume. And yeah, they've been boxing their entire lives, so it's a lifetime of work. But, when you get to these pro levels and you're taking on a guy in Jorge Linares, sometimes you get to these parts of the fight. I'm listening to the post-fight interview, and you're like, well, what do you want from the guy? Do you want him to pitch a blowout? Pitch a shutout like he did against Yorioka Gamboa, or do you want him to face a little bit of adversity and learn how to get through some stuff? And I think for Devin Haney, I don't think tonight could have gone any better. I really don't. I think that, that Gamboa fight was boring. I was excited for it because it was down here locally. I'm a big Gamboa fan. Gamboa showed a lot of toughness in his fight with Gervonta Davis, where he was fighting on one leg on a blown Achilles. So I was excited to see what Devin Haney was going to do to him. And he pitched a shutout, but was never really in danger and really was in there with a guy who I don't think could return a lot of fire. And it was coming off a vicious injury. So I get the disappointment there from Devin Haney. For today, I don't think any criticism is really warranted of it. I mean, you want to get at him because he was holding a lot in the last couple rounds. Okay, but he got clipped. And I thought part of this was that you want to see what it's like when he gets hit with a big punch and how is he going to handle that? Well, to handle it, you got to run out the clock a little bit. So that's what happened. So yeah, I think the first 8 rounds, I mean, to me, some people gave Linares one of the early rounds. I saw that on a lot of Twitter scorecards. I think you were curve grading if that was the case. And when I say curve grading to people, what I mean by that is sometimes I think a lot of the times in internet judging and TV judging, you give a guy a round because he gets the break speed off of him so badly, and then you feel bad and you think, oh, that was a little bit less worse. Let's give him that round. I thought that Devin Haney was pretty flawless for every single round up until round 9. I think that he maybe slowed down a little bit, and then I think Jorge Linares picked up, took advantage, picked up the work pace, and then I think you could have given Linares round 10. I think that Devin Haney had a really, really nice bounce back, and he just got hit with a big short shot that wobbled him, and it was a great move by Linares where he does the El Matador to the other corner. It was a great moment for him. So I think there were arguments for. I think the scorecards were perfectly where they were, to be honest with you, because I definitely could see an argument for him winning rounds 9 through 12 because I thought, got 9. That was one I thought was a pretty clear one on my scorecards for him. 10, he got the best shot of the round for sure, even if Devin Haney didn't. Like, there was one round they wanted to give to Haney, or they wanted to give to Linares on the broadcast, and I just, because he hit like one check hook, and I was like, I can't do it. Like, Devin Haney dominated that round. Like, you're giving Linares way too much credit for just showing up. But that one he legit hit, he legit hurt him, and it felt like a fight changer. Just wasn't enough fight left. 11, I think, was pretty clear for Linares because Linares, was basically dealing with Devin Haney holding him the entire round. And I think 12, it looked like Haney was trying to put like a little finishing touch on it, but then was definitely trying to run out some clock. So that one you probably could coin toss either way. But I think the 8-4 score, the 116, 112, I think those were pretty spot on. I could see it being 9-3. 7-5 is a little bit dicey. You'd have to convince me, and I'd have to hear you out on it. I didn't think it was impossible for it to be a draw, but I would need to know what the judge was drinking that night if that was the case. Because for the most part, for me, you could say whatever you want about Devin Haney's status as WBC champion. Tonight, to me, he looked champion of the world quality. He looked champion of the world quality to me. He looked good enough to go beat Teofimo Lopez. He looked good enough to go beat George Kambosos. He looked good enough to go beat Ryan Garcia. He looked good enough to beat Gervonta Davis or anybody that you want to put on that list. He looked really, really brilliant for 8 rounds. He really did. And again, I think we lose sight of the fact sometimes that these guys are in their early 20s, have a lot of fights under their belt, but they really are just stepping up the competition. And isn't this what you wanted? You wanted him to face a little bit of, all right, what if, what danger? And look, and the thing that is great about Devin tonight, this wasn't like the Yuri Samboa fight. He was fighting in the kitchen the entire time. He was playing with fire the entire time, and he got burnt. He got burnt at the end, but it wasn't like it wasn't a 3rd degree burn. It was like a little bit of a little grease fire after cooking up a nice meal. He sat there. He was dicing up. He was making a nice little casserole or whatnot. I don't think you make grease with casserole. He was making a little bacon, and little bit of bacon grease got on him, and that's okay. That's okay as long as the breakfast is still delicious. Who's worried about what kind of mess went up in the kitchen? So I thought that he showed a lot of great stuff tonight. I thought that he did show a level of aggression that I really, really enjoyed watching. I thought it was a brilliant fight because it wasn't just that he was dishing it out. I mean, some of the misses, it must have been really breezy in the Mandalay Bay with some of the misses that Jorge Linares was hitting. Now, look, he was trying to time things up. He was trying to find things and find his range and definitely give him some props for that. That's what he was looking to. That he was going for broke. He wasn't fazed by it. He wasn't trying to be conservative either. But it made for a really fun fight. I thought it made for even with Devin having it lopsided. I think we were all enthralled as boxing fans seeing this young man crank up the intensity level, crank up the aggression level, dish out some good punishment, hit some uppercuts from some fun angles, vary up the body attack to the head attack. His jab is absolutely brilliant. His uppercut looked great. His body attack was slick. And then just some of the misses, the playment that he had in the range, I just thought, man, he looked champion of the world good. He looked like a guy who was capable of beating anybody in that weight class and maybe, down the road in bigger weight class. He hit Linares with some clean stuff. Certainly the power that he doesn't seem to possess is still a question, but, I do wonder if he was able to if he was, because I distinctly remember thinking to myself after that 8th round that I thought Linares was getting ready to go. So that's props to Linares. I mean, he was able to dig in there, like the gutsy warrior he is, and make the young buck pay there a little bit. But you know, I just think I don't want to. It's what it's like. It's like if I can relate this to any of our Heat fans that are listening. Watching Devin Haney, it's a lot like watching Bam Adebayo. You know that there's a lot of brilliance in there, but he's still kind of discovering all of his superpowers. And so there'll be games where you're like, be more aggressive. You could do this. And tonight was like his Nets buzzer beater, or one of his games in the Eastern Conference Finals. You still want to see a little bit more. It's still not a perfect product, but you know that there's a lot of brilliance there, and a guy who's capable of being a max player and/or championship level boxer. And I think that's what we saw from Devin Haney tonight. Really, really great performance from him. And it'll be interesting to see what the fallout is. He did say that he'd be willing to fight Teofimo Lopez. The thing that you gotta wonder is, well, first, listen, Teofimo's got his work cut out for him coming up on June 19th. A lot of people do think that he is going to walk through George Kambosos. George Kambosos has something to say about that. I'll get into a little bit more of that in the next segment when we bring you our interview with George. But I do think that for Devin and for Teofimo, we've seen now two guys have really great performances against veteran boxers. I think Teofimo obviously took on the better boxer if we're going to do boxing math. Teofimo beat the man who beat the man, Linares, who Devin Haney took on tonight. But it's arguable. Look, as far as punching power is concerned, Linares put down Lomachenko. I mean, he's in a lot of ways a more dangerous fighter. I don't think he's a better fighter than Lomachenko, but I think both of these guys both showed that they have that kind of youth gas tank to really put pedal to the metal early. And then it kind of tapered off as the fight was going on. And so there's still that inexperience, which I think also makes for some really fun fights in this division. So as much hell as I gave these guys last week, because I was like, Devin Haney, Linares, I'm not really – these guys said they were all going to fight each other. It ended up, I think, being a really important fight for them. So I was wrong on that. And I think that it ended up being a very entertaining fight for the fight fans. So shout out to them. Shout out for DAZN for putting on a great showing tonight.